Hello everyone. This is my Module 4 video. Yes, I know it's rather late. I've been out of town at a conference, which is not an excuse, but I had a really good time. So I understand if you guys do not respond at all, but I hope you do check it out. Let me take these glasses off. I hope you guys do check it out, because I think I have some really insightful things to say about this module. So first, I'm going to talk about question 1, which was what issues are presented that relate to your hopes, fears, expectations for the job search. And there were 2 interesting points from the higher ed jobs video that I really liked. It talked about establishing a new paradigm and modifying your brand. I think as professionals, it's always good to establish a new paradigm for yourself as far as what it means to be successful in your role in that particular institution, and then just for yourself in general. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. As establishing a new paradigm simply keeps you sharp, if that makes any sense. So I'll use my role at Coastal Horizons. At Coastal Horizons, I was a prevention specialist, and my job was to disseminate as much information about drugs and suicide to help individuals make safe and healthy choices about drugs and suicide. So of course, the goal wasn't necessarily to intervene as much as it was to stop it from ever happening. So a measure of success was how many people did you meet? It's in like how many people did I face-to-face one-on-one educate in a month? If I had interventions, which were frequent, not as much, it was the ratio to the number of interventions I had to do compared to the number of people I simply advised in a group role or gave counseling to in a group setting was a lot higher. Success was normally determined by the number of times I did a particular thing or executed one of our 6 prevention strategies. That was the paradigm there for my first job. Second job at Upperman Center is radically different because the measure of success is student development, which much like learning is not linear. So you might think you had a contact with a student in September and that they're going to do really, really well, and then in October you're like, what? And then in January though, you could see where they had that leap in development. So that was the paradigm, and that is so one of the ways we measure it in the Upperman Center is, of course, GPA, but also critical thinking in our academic planning. We note in detail how students perform before and after cognitively. We document all of our meetings with students, so we judge it based on like that rate of development, how they process things, what they consider before they make decisions, etc. So establishing a new paradigm for how you view yourself as an employee is definitely critical to your professional development, and I can see why it would be impactful in getting a new job as far as establishing yourself in your brand, which moves you to point number 2, modifying your brand, which I think is cool because, I mean, you kind of have to be willing to change your brand for the needs of the industry. So sometimes I think people think, oh, modify my brand, change who I am. You're not changing who you are at the core, because who you are at the core is informing that brand and always will inform that brand and is your brand. However, you might need to modify what parts of that brand are more emergent than others in order to do the job that the industry needs. I'll give you an example. One of the brands, I would say my personal brand, one of the things I pride myself on is being a good advisor, is being a good listener and a good student advocate. Which luckily for me isn't much different from what I was doing at Coastal Horizons. But if I switched to a more financial aid role where I had to be a little bit more strategic, more analytical, more formula and empirical based, it wouldn't change how I interacted with the students, but I would have to let my more analytical strength emerge to do the role. So when I hear modify your brand, to me it's just saying be cognizant of what strengths need to emerge in order for you to do the job the best. That's a little bit on issue number 1. Issue number 3, it says, what experience have prepared me for my next role? My next role, hopefully, will be an assistant director or director role. And I think I've gotten a lot of that in managing the Excellence Project in the Upperman Center, being that I created it. Give me a lot of like foresight, vision, strategic planning, and I'm learning as I go. I'm not perfect at it, of course, but I think that's given me a lot of, I don't know, skills that I didn't have before. Also, my role in NCCPA has been really, really helpful. Doing equity and inclusion and just trying to create a scaffolding for 17 universities and a state organization has been very, very, very challenging, but at the same time a really good experience that I think will prepare me for when I'm ready to apply for that assistant director or director role. I've had those experiences. What experiences do I hope to gain while I'm in the program? Well, technically my time in this program is over, but I would still like to maybe get a little bit more experience in the strategic planning part, the evaluation and assessment pieces. The Excellence Project hasn't been going long enough for me to do any long-term true assessment. I mean, we can assess student performance, we can assess enrollment in our cohort, we can, assess their GPAs from one semester to the other as compared to the control group. But I mean, assessment for other things like is programming effective? Are they getting the outcomes? And that's something as a program coordinator I'm not really privy to a lot of those conversations. So that would be some experience I would like to gain. Next question. How has my coursework prepared me for my next role? I think it has helped me a lot. Like, I got a lot out of student development theory. I got a lot out of critical issues too. Theoretical concepts behind certain concepts, certain things, like diversity, like assessment, that's like organizational governance in a school, which will lead to my gaps in knowledge. I have a theoretical understanding, but I haven't practiced it yet. So I was just at the Centennial for Omicron Delta Kappa, which is the National Leadership Honor Society, and I was there participating on the membership committee. And while I knew in theory how meetings were supposed to go, and we practiced in critical issues, and it was different being around presidents and vice presidents and universities, and me just having a newly minted master's degree and 3 years of experience contending in this conversation. So it kind of goes back to that point I was talking about earlier about my brand. I had to have a little bit of confidence, and I also had to modify my skills and what they needed from me in order to be successful in that meeting context. Sorry this is a really long video, guys, but I really liked it, and I wish I would have done it earlier, to be honest. So yeah, that's kind of my little brief overview. I want to talk a little bit about the job articles that we read, the perfect job and the first job out of graduate school, because I did talk about that in depth when I took the class the first time, so I don't want to cheat, but I do want to give a little note. I don't think anything is perfect. I don't think there is a perfect job. I think it's hard for humans as imperfect beings to even conceptualize or recognize something that is perfect. So that's just like a philosophical belief. But most importantly, I believe that perfection is contextual. So my next job will be perfect to me in the sense that I hopefully will get paid more. It's perfect compared to the other job, given that I make more money, if that makes any sense. I think there'll be things about every job that you will not like, just like every day won't be a good day, if that makes any sense. So you can't possibly realistically expect for a job to be perfect. You might do what you love, but there'll always be things that you do along with doing what you love that you just have to do to stay employed, whether that be paperwork, other administrative tasks, what have you. I think just it moved beyond perfection. It's kind of like what the guy was saying in the webinar about people trying to be complete. Like, it's a journey. Like, especially if you work in higher education, you should learn that if lifelong learning is a journey, then personal development is a journey. So is professional development. Like, it's not in a silo from the other two. Professional development often occurs in tandem with the other two. So you can't have any one without the other two. So I'm rambling, sorry, but again, sorry so long. Sincere apologies. I hope someone watches it. Anyway, have a good night, guys.